What's going on, Imperials? It's Emperor Cubone here. Well, what do you think? Are you even more excited for Scarlet and Violet now? Personally, I'm looking forward to this more than any Pokemon game since X and Y, probably. And this latest trailer did help with that. But it also seems like they kind of left us scratching our heads for what they left out. I don't think they'll go all out and reveal too much like Alola or anything, but before we get into it, let's go over some do's and don'ts for what they should or should not do in Generation 9 of Pokemon. The first thing to do in these games is just tell us the region's name already. Seriously, what's the deal? I don't even need a full map or anything, but it gets pretty awkward trying to talk about the Gen 9 region without having a name to call it. I just ragged on Alola, but at least they told us what it was called from the start, and the same thing happened with Galar even. Do they just still not know what the official name will be yet? Because then I feel like they got bigger problems. But that's enough of the passive-aggressive treatment. We do have confirmation that this is an open-world game, and so I will say the first don't would be to make it too open-world. That might sound nonsensical, but I'm thinking of Legends Arceus here. I really enjoyed the Hisui region, and all the exploration that they baked into the gameplay. However, on the whole, the world was a tiny bit empty. Granted, that was by design, maybe not the lack of trees so much, but there was purposefully a lack of civilization within this long-ago region. I didn't mind that, but it wouldn't work nearly as well if that method were taken again in Gen 9. We've seen one big city, maybe two, but the rest is mostly just open environments, which is great for sure. But if there's no established societies in a modern game, it would feel out of place, and make me wonder how they managed to even build up the region at all. I mostly bring this up because it appears the Pokemon Centers are little more than way stations that you can quickly use and then be on your way. So I just don't want that to be the extent of human presence in the region. I mean, wouldn't you hate to work out at this frozen one? This might not be a problem, but again, they haven't shown us the map, so we just have to guess. And I'll be honest, I've not played all that many open-world games, but I'm just thinking about Nintendo ones here like Breath of the Wild, which was great fun, but similarly void of humanoid structures for the most part. There of course were standouts, but it was a long way to the next one with maybe just a camp in between. I liked that in Legends, but I want them to build off of it and integrate a full nation spread all throughout these diverse environments. And these locations do look great, like this almost outback looking area. So I imagine we'll get some pretty awesome Pokemon to live in these places. But the next thing they should absolutely do is expand the kinds of Pokemon found in this region. By this, I mean, don't just give us even more of the same types that we already have overinflated, such as normal or water or even grass. Now, to be fair, I realize there are many different kinds of plants and sea life, but that doesn't mean you need to keep cutting the rest of the types short. I am worried because they might have already failed at this, with the trailer showing off a brand new normal and grass type. Now, despite Smoliv looking like a baby between Trapinch and Badoo, it's not the ordinary random pure grass type because the official website says that it's grass and normal. Granted, that is still another overly common type, but it's still better than pure grass like last generation. 20 plus years later and a boring plant just doesn't cut it. We also have Lechonk, who was no doubt chosen strategically to be revealed now, as it is basically the new Wooloo-style internet favorite. But why is it another pure normal type? I don't think they're replacing the regional rodent with a pig or anything, so why not just make it a ground type or something instead? I mean, I guess it could still turn into a ground type, but there have only been 10 new ground type Pokemon across the last 3 generations combined. And it only broke into double digits a few months ago when Ursaluna finally showed up. I'm not fully expecting a bunch of ice types or dragon types or anything, but would it really hurt to have at least some mid-game variety for fire types or steel types that are usually a lot more rare instead of another 2 unevolving normal types and a plain water fish? The new Pikachu clone is back to pure electric, so how many fans are really going to be clamoring for that? Also, do the proportions look weird to anyone else or is that just me? Anyway, I believe in the potential of Scarlet and Violet, so I just don't want them feeling like they have to adhere to some checklist and they can shake up the type distributions a bit more than usual. But we did finally see the box art Pokémon, which are another entry in the clearly somehow related category, but they're also fairly opposite, with one being half robot and the other being almost a tribal warrior. But even that's not all, because the Pokémon professors are also split between versions this time. So another thing that they should absolutely do is include even more version-exclusive content. Now, Pokémon has always done this, of course, but it's generally confined to a dozen or so pocket monsters. I do think that will be the case here, but it seems like they could go a lot further. We've seen version gym leaders multiple times now, so I think that would be an easy one to do, but the fact that the professors are different too makes me think that the floodgates are open. So what if in one version we have a mom and in the other we have a dad? Maybe like Black and White, in one spot there could be a city, and in the other version it's a cool spring or a cave system, perhaps. Probably not evil teams, we've already had multiple evil teams the last 2 generations, but maybe some different admins amongst their ranks, perhaps? I'm sure there's more than just people and places that can be different, but those are just the most noticeable. I mean, Sun and Moon had different times of day, so maybe they could work something out to actually make these games both worth playing at the same time, besides just changing some clothes and the mascot legends. But speaking of, these lizards are clearly going for a theme here, and it might be hard to nail down until you see the professors, and then I think most people can start to see there's some kind of past versus future premise going on here. Apparently even their names are a play on past and future, so some fans have been speculating on possible story points or at least gimmicks, but I feel they don't need to include time travel, at least not excessively. I loved the Celebi event quest in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, so if they do a small amount of it like that, it would probably be fine to have a quick jaunt to either the past or the future, depending on your version, although maybe there's a third legend from some other dimension where there is no time. Anyway, I don't think having that as a primary plot point would be good for either the game or the series as a whole. We've already had alternate realities, and while we did see limited travel between them, it was never controlled, only being accidental. As much as I love a good time travel story, I feel like that would get pretty far away from the core of this franchise, which is in fact the collection of monsters and not grander scale science fiction tropes with each generation. Especially if it's some sort of man-made method of shifting your temporal location instead of influenced by Pokémon. It really wouldn't make sense to have it in the game if it were disconnected from the Pokémon themselves. They could do it in a cool way, I'm sure, and I would want it to be that way if they must have it in there, but I think their theming of past and future would be enough. Basically being Opalucid City the game, and the same effect could be reached in a more subtle way. This one will be short, but another thing they should do is include regional forms. It's short because I'm sure it will happen, but let me explain what I mean. Not only would I like to see new regional forms added to the decks, because I've all but given up on the idea that they're actually going to add a decent number of new Pokémon to the region, but I would like for all of the past variant Pokémon to be accessible in this place. Not that you should be able to catch a wild Alolan Sandshrew and Galarian Zigzagoon at the same time, but just allowing free trade amongst them all. Or just make it like the Let's Go games and have NPCs from those regions to trade them to you. We've already seen Hisui and Zoroark, so that was honestly my biggest concern. But knowing that those Legends Pokemon won't be lost to time gives me hope that they're going in the right direction and can do it justice in Gen 9. But at the same time, they could easily go the wrong way if they don't correct course on a decades-old trend, so Scarlet and Violet categorically don't need a superfluous battle gimmick. I realize this will likely fall on deaf ears and they just haven't revealed it yet, but since Gen 5 really, there has always been a change to the battle system that was heavily promoted in its time and then immediately discarded. Maybe the 4 at a time thing is the gimmick somehow, and that would probably be okay because multiplayer would be a welcome change to the Pokemon format. But we've already seen the Japanese logos with those symbols, so I know we're gonna get something, but I just don't want it to be a random thing that gets tossed out as quickly as I'm expecting Dynamaxing to be. Just make a good game. You can flesh out the region with people and culture, and that will leave a much bigger impression than Pokemon fusions or whatever they want to do. But at the very least, if you must include it, just don't make it intrusive. The best gimmicks are the ones that can be ignored if you choose, but still add to the fun when used. There are, of course, many other possibilities to consider before we really dig into this generation, like the fact that we'll more than likely be able to ride our legendary Pokemon like a motorcycle all across this big open world. But what would you consider the biggest do's and don'ts for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet? Let me know down in the comments. Also, be sure to leave a like, share this video, and subscribe so that you too can become an Imperial today. And we'll see you around next time!